A week from today, the U.S. Senate is expected to vote on current Boston Mayor Marty Walsh's nomination as Labor Secretary. And assuming he's confirmed, shortly after, City Council President Kim Janey will take over as the first black and the first female mayor of Boston for the remainder of Walsh's term. While she's getting used to the job, a bunch of others want it themselves, including longtime Economic Development Chief John Barros, State Rep John Santiago, City Councilors Michelle Wu and Andrea Campbell, and Annissa Essaibi George. The Dorchester Democrat has represented the city as an at-large council member since 2016. He's also the owner of the Dorchester Yarn and Fabric store, Stitch House, and a former social studies teacher at East Boston High. Annissa Essaibi George joins me now. Councilor, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
It's great to see you. Thank you.
So it's a pretty impressive crew, I must say, of those who've announced so far. What do you bring to the race that the others don't?
Well, I'd say for me and my candidacy, it's about my work building a business, my work in my time in the classroom at East Boston High School for 13 years, and the work that I've done on the Boston City Council over these last 5.5 years or so.
What's the most important thing you've done in those 5.5 years on the council?
Well, I've done a lot of things that I'm very proud of, but I'd say my work, especially in the weeds around our schools and around improving the quality of education for all of our kids across the Boston Public Schools. I'm also very proud of my work in forming the first special commission here in the city of Boston, a special commission to end family homelessness. As you know, over these last 5.5 years, I've spent a great deal of my time focused on that work, and I'm proud of it. We've got so much work to do, of course, to end family homelessness in our city and in our state, but it's something that I'm proud of and feel very grateful to have had the opportunity to work on.
You said the other day on Channel 5 that if Marty Walsh had run for re-election, you would not have run. How would you rate his overall job performance?
Well, Mayor Walsh has done a tremendous job, especially in this last year when we think about the implications and the impact that the pandemic has had on our city, on our residents, on our business owners, on our students across the school district. And, you know, I'm grateful for his service. I'm excited about this next adventure for him, this new role that he'll be playing. But the partnership I've been able to have with him over these last 5 years and the work that we've been able to do together and in partnership and the things that I've been able to push him on. I worked with the mayor to make sure that we have a full-time nurse in every one of our school buildings. I've worked with him to increase the number of mental health and emotional support specialists in our schools. We still have a great deal of work to do in that space. And obviously worked with him to pass a needle ordinance to make sure that our residents can return shots to their local pharmacy. And this work that we're doing on the special commission to end family homelessness in our city. He's been a great partner in this work. I've appreciated that relationship, and I look forward to continuing to work with him, me as mayor and him as labor secretary.
So, as I mentioned, you were a teacher for more than a decade. You are the chair of the Education Committee. How would you rate Marty Walsh in the schools? The achievement gap is embarrassing and destructive. The high school graduation gap is both of those things. How did he do in the public schools?
Well, there's always room for improvement. There always will be. And we need to definitely, absolutely, without a doubt, do better for our kids. We've seen what's happened over this last year as kids are now slowly returning back to the classroom in the Boston Public Schools. That gap continues to widen. We need to double down both on resources and services to support our kids during this time and through the time of transition, especially as we plan ahead to September. We need to make sure that our kids have both the academic supports and the other support services that our schools really deliver to our kids day in and day out. It's critically important that we do that. And I've held over these last 4 years the mayor responsible for the work that has happened in our schools and the places where we have failed our kids. But again, through partnership, we've been able to make some great strides in those things that you mentioned, but in particular, making sure that we are offering both a rigorous curriculum and the appropriate support services across the board for our kids, for our teachers, for our school communities.
You probably know that the teachers' unions, including the Boston Teachers Union, support an effort to delay the opening of K through 12 and beyond the date that the Education Commissioner, the State Education Commissioner, has set under his new powers. Do you support what they're doing, pushing that date back?
I will tell you, I want our kids in school, my own children in school, our kids in school as soon as possible and full time. I want them in, but we do need to make sure that we're doing it safely, that we're approaching this work thoughtfully, and for sure considering the science. But I will say that so many of our kids have been in school full-time since September. And in the Boston Public Schools, a number of our high needs kids have been in school since September, small break obviously in the middle. But today, more kids have returned to the classroom. Next week and the week after, more kids will come to the classroom. We need to get to a place where our kids are in school full-time, but it does have to be done thoughtfully and smartly.
So do you support the delay that they're advocating for, or you don't? I
support being thoughtful about reopening school, and I want to be aggressive. I will say, and sort of this is, it's a complex situation for sure. I want our kids in school full-time immediately. I want my own children in school full-time immediately. But we do have to proceed with a certain caution and a certain attention to the safety plans that need to be in place. Some of our school buildings are tight. Some of our classrooms are small. We need to make sure that we can do that. And I want to do it as quickly as possible. We certainly need resources to get there. And we've got to get there soon. Our kids are desperate for it, both academically when we think about the achievement gap, but also emotionally. Our kids are in pain, are hurting, and are disconnected from the communities that they have to be connected to.
Councilor, we have less than a minute left. At one point, Boston wanted the Olympics. After the Olympics, we were going to have this beautiful mixed-use development at Wydett Circle. Now it appears we may end up with an Amazon distribution center. We used to call them warehouses when I was younger. Is that an appropriate use of that piece of the city? Quickly, if you can.
We've got to take a look at what we want the gateway to our city to look like. We've got a beautiful historic city that's included some shiny new buildings. We need to make sure that we can welcome visitors to our city in a very appropriate way. And that Wydett Circle is a gateway. We've got to take a very close look at that proposal, at that development, and what we want our city to look like going forward.
Can you imagine any circumstance in which an Amazon warehouse is a welcoming gateway to the city of Boston?
It's really hard to imagine.
Is that a no or a yes?
It's really hard to imagine how that could be an appropriate gateway to our city.
Annissa Essaibi, George, I wish you luck. Hope to see you a lot in the next few months. Take care of yourself.
Can't wait. Thanks, Jim.